Now you will learn about filters and can use what you have learned about layer masks, layers and alpha channels. I open the exported projection map which we have just made. I want to use it to put the wood texture onto your object and maybe change the eyes and the mouth a little. First of all, I need to make an editable layer with layer functions from this gray layer. That does not work if you open the picture as background. That's why you see this little lock here. Double-click onto the background layer and the window New Layer opens. If I name it now, it turns into a normal layer which can be edited. The next step is to separate the mesh from the gray background color to make it easier to work with. That's quite easy. I mark all gray areas. I go to Select Color Range and pick up the gray color with the pipette. With this slider I can control how big the accepted deviation can be. Now all gray areas are marked. I could make a new layer which I do not want to. It is better to make a layer mask and fade out the gray areas. You can do this by adding a layer mask with the menu or with the toolbar. Be careful to make the right selection. Here you can see what happens if you make the wrong one. It is vice versa to what we wanted. Here the white areas have been faded out. With Ctrl I pressed you can invert the selection. Now we only have the white mesh which builds up the map. Do not be irritated by the checker boxes. Photoshop shows transparent areas with checker boxes. Now I open my texture and pull it onto my picture. When the texture is too large you can adjust the size with the transforming tool, which you can activate by pressing the Ctrl T keys. Now I have the possibility to transform the texture until it fits to your map. I put the texture beneath my map now. You can see that the map and the texture are two different layers. Now I fade out the textures a little until I can see the map shine through so I can identify the areas of the eyes and the rest of the face. Now it's time to start to work with the filters. First of all, I duplicate my basic layer as backup for the texture and deactivate it. The other layers is the one we are going to work with. I rename it so I'm not going to mix it up with my backup layer. I now use the burn tool to roughly darken the eye sockets. I want the mouth to be a little lighter, which I can make with the dodge tool. And I darken the sides of the nose as well. I deactivate the map layer to take a first look. Also I want the wooden texture on the whole facial part to be more crisp than the rest of the texture. Therefore I activate a working mask and select the area I am going to work with. For a better control I compare the selected area by activating the map layer. As you can see, deviation between the both areas is sharp-edged. So if I, for example, sharpen one area, there would form a clear tear-off edge. To avoid that, I simply blur my mask at the edges and the sharpened area would steadily fade out into the unsharpened area. Now I open the sharpener. I prefer the unsharp mask filter. You can see what happens. All the lagged area in the center is sharpened with the fade out to the untouched areas, which are not affected by the sharpener. I save the file as PSD file as well as JPEG, so I am able to use this texture for my trueSpace projection. But for I go into trueSpace and load my new texture, which now matches the projection. You see that the face is sharp while the rest of the head isn't, and that I did not match the eyes and the mouth exactly. Of course, this is only made roughly. Of course, I could take all the time and go way more into details to improve the textures nearly to perfection. But for this tutorial, this fairly rough example should do the job.